morning. Today is Sunday. It is Tezayin Oder Aleph, Tofshin Ein Dalet. We're in Teres Menachem, Sefer HaMamorim, Tofshin Yud Aleph, Tofshin Yud Beis. And we are in the Mamar, at the end of the Mamar Vayakhel Moshe, Shabbos Pashas Vayakhel, Pashas Chodesh, and Mamar Vayakhel Moshe, Tofshin Yud Beis, on page Reish Mem Ches. The Rebbe explained that Vayakhel Moshe, this gathering that Moshe gathered the Yidden on the day after Yom Kippur, was for the purpose of teaching them how to bring the world back, to fix the world post Chet HaEgel, post the sin of the golden calf. The world was created al Miluay, the Rebbe said, in a state of Kedusha, holiness. Chet Eitz Hadas, the sin of the tree of knowledge, when the snake got involved with Chava, brought impurity into the world. That impurity was removed from the world at Matan Torah, returned to the world when the Jews sinned with the golden calf, and following that, when Hashem said, Tzolachti Kidvarecha, on Yom Kippur, Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching the Yidden how to fix the world again. And he explained to them that Sheishes Yomim Te'asa Melacha, that the involvement that a person needs to have in this world, with matters of this world, needs to be in a way of Te'asa, as if the things are happening and being done on their own. Meaning to say that a person's involvement in material and mundane things needs to be Yigia Kapecha, the toil of his hands, but not the toil of his mind and his heart, because his mind and his heart needs to be dedicated to serving Hashem. Nevertheless, it's called Yigia. Even when you work with your hands, it's still called toil, because the person is anticipating when can he conclude what he needs to do in terms of his involvement with physical and material things, so that he could revert back to what he really should be doing, and that is to daven and to learn and to serve Hashem. The Rebbe explained that this is also in Ruchnius, in the spiritual sense. In the spiritual sense, a person who serves Hashem needs to do so with Kabbalas Oil, with the acceptance of yoke. The emphasis needs to be on the fact that he does so because it's Hashem's will. And a person should not feel and should not consider that it is his doing because he has such good abilities and such good ethics that he serves Hashem at such a high level, but rather he should understand that the person invests a little bit, kichudesh al machat, like the opening, like the sharpness of a pinhead, and the Eibishter Hashem gives inspiration and bracha, kipischeh shel ulam, as wide as the opening of a great big hall. And the Rebbe explained in Ois Vav that this is the meaning of the pasuk Vayakhel Moshe. And he said to them, Moshe gathered the Jewish people, and he said, Eila hadvarim, these are the things that you should do. These are the things that Hashem said. And Eila hadvarim, he brought from the Gemara in Shabbos, is a hint for the 39 activities, mundane activities, which we do during the weekend, which we are prohibited to do on Shabbos. Dvarim is 2, hadvarim is 3, Eile, the numerical value is 33, 33 and 3, 36. 36 and 3 is 39. And that has to be done in a way of te'asa, which means relying, as we just said before, on Hashem, that most of it is being done by Hashem. And therefore, when one is in that mindset during the week, which means he has less worry during the week, therefore when it comes on Shabbos, he's in a state of total tranquility, Shabbos Shabbosing. And all this is accomplished. So again, the symbol of the 39 malachas is the symbol of what we do in order to fulfill the mission for which our souls came into this world, which is to make a dwelling place for Hashem in the lowest realms. And the Rebbe, if you remember, explained why we must say that the tachlis of B'riyas Ha'olam, the ultimate intended purpose of creation, is specifically our low realm, not Atzilus, for example. Because in Atzilus it is a descent. That's a descent, a diminished state of godly revelation relative to the preceding levels. And you don't utilize something greater for the purpose of achieving something less. You utilize something great to achieve something even greater. And that can only be accomplished in this physical world, not in Elam Atzilus. The Rebbe said, in this physical world it's also a descent, because it's even a less godly revelation than in Atzilus. But in our world, it's Yerida Tzerech Aliyah. It's a descent for the purpose of an ascent. In Atzilus, it's a Yerida for the purpose of following Yerida of Bria. Bria is for the purpose of the following descent, which is Yetzirah. Yetzirah descends for the purpose of the following descent, which is Asiyah. But the descent into Asiyah is for the purpose of the Aliyah, the ascent which follows, which is even greater than what happened before. Greater than the Madrega that was before. And that is accomplished through man's service of Hashem. Neshama in a guf, the guf is daimim, the guf is an inanimate object. They used to took offer min adama and made the body, and then he blew the soul of the person into the body. In this way the person is different than all of the creatures. All of the creatures, their body and soul were created together. The person not so, and the person accomplishes that through his neshama, as it is clothed and vested in his body, fulfilling Torah, both of which are rooted in Atzmos. And Harris asked, is there a difference between the different levels in which and how Torah is rooted in Atzmos and Neshama is rooted in Atzmos? We have to come back to that still. But the bottom line is that through the fact that a person acts in this way, this is the meaning of the pasuk, Eila hadvorim asher tziva Hashem. This is how the Rebbe concluded Beis Vav. These are the things. Again, if you remember, Eila hadvorim is a reference to the 39 malachas, which we do during the week and we don't do on Shabbos. And through acting in these 39 things in this way, then Asher Tziva Havaya, Hashem instructed us Tziva to fuse Getlichkeit, Tziva Malashon Tzafsa V'chibur, fusing godliness, La'asis Oisam, with them to make what? A Dira B'tachtenim, a dwelling place for Hashem. That's how the Rebbe interpreted the pasuk. And now we're up to the last Ois Zayin, the concluding Ois of the Maimer. V'hinei Yadua, now it is known, Ois Zayin, page Reish Mem Ches. Sheyisoid Kol Seder Ha'ishtal Shalus, that the foundation of the entire chain order of creation, Hu Al Gimel Ha'inyanim, the Olam Shana Nefesh. Right? In Sefer Yetzirah, in the book of Formation, he speaks about Olam Shana and Nefesh. It's known that the entire chain order of creation is founded on what? On these three ideas of Olam Shana Nefesh. We had it, if you remember, in a previous Maimer. I believe it was the Maimer of Breishis. Was it?
You're asking the wrong guys.
Vayikach Havai Elokim Es Adam. Yes. The Maimer of Shabbos Pashas Breishis, Mevorchim HaChedesh Cheshvan, where the Rebbe speaks also about Olam Shana and Nefesh. If you remember, he spoke about that this encapsulates the different loves, the different modes, modalities of the person, etc., etc. Anyway, the bottom line is that Olam Shana and Nefesh are the three components which are the foundation of the entire chain order of creation. Olam meaning world, Shana meaning time, Nefesh meaning soul. V'lachein nimnu kan gimel inyanim eila. That's why here also, in the pasuk Vayakhel that we are now talking about, what are enumerated are these three aspects of Olam Shana Nefesh. Where do we see these three components in this pasuk Vayakhel? You remember one of the questions that Rebbe asked was, what was this gathering that Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all the Jewish people? Every mitzvah, every commandment, everything that Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the Jewish people when he spoke to them, when he transmitted to them what Hashem said, he gathered them. What's the emphasis over here? So he says like this: Vayak Mashakos Vayakhel Moshe Skaladas Bnei Israel Hu Ini B'chinas Nefesh. When it says Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all the Jewish people, this is the emphasis. This is the idea of what? The focus on Nefesh, the souls. Shehikil. What does it mean? He gathered this called Nafshes Yisrael, all the souls of the Yidden, Leb'chinas Achtos HaMitis. To this level, to this madrega of true unity. That was the nefesh aspect. In other words, since he was talking about something so fundamental, the idea of what? Tikkun. For Chet Egel, to bring the world back to its state of wholesomeness, so he needed to affect them in the three areas of Eilam Shana Nefesh. So he gathered them all together, this true unity. The Inyan said this idea of being able to gather all the souls to the state of true unity, who is really specifically only with the power of Moshe. Because Moshe Rabbeinu is rooted in the first Shemitah. We'll get to that in a minute. Which is beyond the Shemitah, the sabbatical in which we find ourselves. The Hainu, which is beyond Hishtalshalus. If you remember, we learned a Maimer previously also. I don't remember exactly which Maimer it is now. I think it was Eila Mishpatim. Eila Mishpatim Tavshin Yud Aleph. In Eila Mishpatim Tavshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe brought the pasuk, "V'zeraiti es Beis Yisrael zera Adam v'zera behema." That I planted the house of Israel, the seed of man and the seed of the animal. The Rebbe explained that these are a reference to two types of neshamas. The neshamas the ma and the neshamas the ban. The Rebbe explained that usual neshamas are called, the neshamas of the Hamayin Am are called, of the general public are called zera behema, the seed of animals. Why? Because neshamas are born in Olam Habriya, in the world of creation, right? And they are born out of the unity, the union of Zun, Zoh and Malchus, which is Midas, which is Behema, right? Shem Ban, Beis Nun Beis is the numerical value of Behema. That's the usual situation. Leaders of Yidden, special neshamas are born, are higher. They are called Zera Adam. Why? Because they are born, some of them are born even in Atzilus, either from the Yichud Zun, but in Atzilus. Others are born from the Yichud Avo, from the union of Chochmah and Bina, which is higher. Moshe Rabbeinu was born from Yichud Avo. And not only that, he had elements from beyond Avo. We're talking about Chochmah and Bina of Atzilus. He had elements from beyond Atzilus, from Olam Hatoyu. That's why he was called Moshe, ki min hamayim mishisihu. He was drawn from the water. What is that a reference to? That's a reference to that which precedes Olam Atzilus, which is what? Olam Hatoyu, the world of chaos. It's called Mayim, because the world of chaos in Kabbalah, in Sefer HaTmur in particular, this is from, some say it's from Rabbi Nechoni ben Akana, there's language of Shemitah Rishon and Shemitah Shniya, the first sabbatical and the second sabbatical. The first sabbatical, according to the Arizal, I'm just going to explain according to the Arizal, because that's the psak, that's the way we look at it. That there are two Shemitahs, two sabbaticals in terms of Seder Ishtalshalos. That which precedes Hishtalshalos as we know it, Tikkun, or rather Tikkun as we know it, which means Olam Hatoyu, generally, that's a catch-all of Olam Hatoyu. Over there, that is Chesed, that's why it's called Mayim, that's why there was such an abundance of revelation. Too much Chesed, too much giving, that's why it's called Mayim. From Tikkun and on is called Din, Gvura. Why? Because it withholds. In fact, that's because of that. It says in some places that's why the Churban Abayis, the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the Bati Mikdash, were carried out in this Shemitah, because again, there's the idea of Gvura. But in any event, generally speaking, Toyu is the idea of too much Chesed. When you go into Tikkun, the revelations become regulated. So there's more of an infusion of the Gvura dimension, the Din dimension. So Mayim is a reference to what? Kimina Mayim, Mishisiyu, in the context of Moshe Rabbeinu, is a reference to Toyu. So Moshe Rabbeinu had elements in him, in his neshama. Not only was he a neshama d'Atzilus from Yichud Avo, but he also had in his neshama elements from Toyu. There were another one also, I believe, Chanoich. It says Chanoich and Moshe were neshamas not only from Atzilus, but they also even had aspects from Toyu from beyond the Shtalshalos. So generally speaking, when you say Shemitah Rishona, the first Shemitah, the first sabbatical, we're talking about the 7 midas, as it were, but from Toyu, from beyond the Shtalshalos. And then when we talk about Shemitah Shniya, we talk about what? It's a reference to Tikkun. Zokter Hazeh. So this ability to be able to gather all the Jewish people, that and to bring them to true unity, that was from Moshe, specifically because his source is from the first Shemitah, beyond the Shemitah in which we find ourselves, which means beyond Ishtalshalos.
Doesn't make any sense because the whole idea of Torah was intolerant.
Correct. But Moshe Rabbeinu was able to assimilate Tohu into a tikkun framework. That's the point. Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Atzilus. Moshe Rabbeinu was in Neshama Atzilus, and he acted in tikkun. But he had such a powerful neshama that even those elements of Tohu, which bring what generally when we talk about chet, what's the idea of chet? It's chet egel, for example. Those are the remnants of Shviras HaKelim. That's what it is. Those are the remnants. Those are the influences and the manifestations of Tohu. So somebody that doesn't have the ability to go beyond Tikkun, when he comes into a Tohu scenario, it becomes corrupted. The Yidden weren't wrong really in terms of what they wanted. Their drive, their motivation for Chet Egel wasn't malicious. They didn't want to serve idols. They wanted Giluyim. They wanted revelation. They needed a leader. They wanted a Moshe Rabbeinu. But it was corrupted. Why? Because it was an effusion from Tohu. When Tohu comes into a state of, if it's untikkund, as it were, it's Shviras HaKelim. It falls into Klippa. It takes a Moshe Rabbeinu who is of tikkun, with elements of Tohu, to be able to give Yidden the koyach to rectify that. So it was Moshe Rabbeinu who was able to gather the Yidden to true Achdus, because he had in him, his source was from the Shemitah Rishon, beyond the Shemitah in which we find ourselves, which means he was from beyond Ishtalshalos. And he was able to take that and draw it down into Ishtalshalos, into Tikkun, and infuse Yidden with the ability to do the same. So that's what Nefesh, that's the gathering of Nefesh. And when he said to them, these are the things that Hashem said you should do, right? That 6 days a week you should work, on the Shabbos you should rest. And he said, Eila Dvarim, that's a reference to, as we mentioned before, the 39 activities that a person is prohibited, it needs to do during the week, and is prohibited to do on Shabbos. These are the 39 mundane activities. That's obviously matters of Olam. So that's a reference to what? The aspect of the Olam, from the three of Olam, Shana, and Nefesh, the world. And what connects the soul with the world? In other words, in what context, in what framework does the soul operate where? In the world. The soul operates in the world al yidei Shana, through Shana, which is what? B'chinas hazman, the idea of time. That's why it says 6 days a week you should do your work, and on the seventh day is a day of rest. Which is a description of the order of serving, of a man's service, of man's work within the confines of time. So you have over here what? The three elements of Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. And just like this idea of what? Of Olam, Shana, and Nefesh is extant concerning Klal Yisrael, Yidden in general, right? Which is the Pasuk Vayakhel Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu telling Yidden what they need to do in terms of bringing the world to a state of shleimus in Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. So too, Kein Hu Gam Bepratis B'Kol Echad V'Echad Miyisrael. This is also an instruction to each and every individual Yid, each and every individual Jew. Shetzarich Lasik B'Aveidose B'Gimel Inyanim Eila, that he has to serve Hashem, he has to be occupied in the service of Hashem in these three matters. Vayakhel Moshe Kol Adas Bnei Yisrael Haynu Shetzarich Lasik V'Lahakal Kol Inyanim Amefuzor. The idea of Moshe gathering the entire congregation of Israel, what does that mean in terms of myself as an individual? That I have to gather together, collect and gather together all my matters that are spread out. In other words, sometimes our life seems to be fragmented, and we have to sort of bring unity into all of it. It should be permeated by what? By the goal of fulfilling the mission for which our neshama came to the Mata. How do we do that? And this idea is this is through the power of Moshe that each and every single individual Jew possesses within him. Concerning this, our sages say, the Pasuk says in Chumash Dvarim, Ve'ata Yisrael ma Hashem alekecha shel me'imach ki'im de'yira. Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Yidden, what is already the Eibishter asking from you? Hashem is only asking you to fear Him. Fragt die Gemara, Oto Yirim Milsa Zutrasehi. Fearing Hashem is such a small thing. So the Gemara says, yes. Legabi Moshe. Relative to Moshe, Milsa Zutrasehi. It's a small thing, small matter. So what does the Gemara answer? We're talking about every Yid having fear of Hashem. So the Gemara says, yes. Moshe Rabbeinu considers it something small. But what about me? So the Rebbe explains, the Koyal B'chinas Moshe Shem Kol Echad V'Echad Misrael, as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. This is a reference to the aspect of Moshe that each and every Jew possesses. So that is what Vayakhel Moshe, as it is in each and every individual Jew, gathering all the things that are dispersed within a person's avodah, within a person's life. These are the and then when it says these are the things that Hashem instructed us to do, instructed that they should be done. This is a reference to the mundane activities that a person does, that they have to be be done in a way of tziva. What does tziva mean? They have to be in a way that it connects them. That a person needs to connect his physical and mundane activities with godliness, which is the ultimate intended purpose of the soul descending into the body. And all this is performed how? Through performing our service. In time, in the context of time, which is the idea of 6 days a week your work should be done, through which we arrive to the level of Shabbos Shabbosayin, total tranquility. What follows these instructions about Shabbos? What follows is the work to build the Mishkan. What's the connection? Why? Because through the serving Hashem in the above mentioned way, we will have the construction of the third temple speedily in our days. This concludes the Mamar Vayakhel Moshe. We still have a few points that we have to explain, which I will try to do in Mitzvah tomorrow. I just want to start one line from the following Maimer, so we make the Hascholah straight away, which is on page Reish Nun. It's Shabbos Pashas Vayikra Gimel Nisan Tavshin Yud Beis. It says in Yeshaya, this is from the Haftorah of Pashas Vayikra. Am zu yotzarti li tehilasi saperu. Yeshaya Navi says, this is the nation that I created for myself. They will tell my praise. This is what Hashem says. So the Talmud says, Yovay zeh v'yikabel zois mizeh la'amzu. May this one come and receive this from this one and give it to this nation. Amzu Eli Yisrael Shanem Amzu Yatzarti. And who's this nation? This is reference to the Yidden, as it says in the verse. This is the nation I created. Continue Mitzvah tomorrow.